I appreciate the opportunity to be an old guy to come and talk to you about your situation. That was a joke, by the way. So where we're going now is what I want to talk with you about for the next 15 minutes is I want to talk with you about branding. Branding is the image we put forth to the world. And, you know, I'm a Gen Xer based on my age. What generation are you guys? What's the name? Are you guys millennials or are you guys after that? You guys not have a tag yet? Z, is that you guys? Okay. So the sociologists probably haven't figured out what makes you guys tick. My generation, Generation X, they called us that because my generation didn't stand for anything. So that's why they decided we were Gen X. And I can remember when I was in college, back before any of you were born, there was a conversation we had in class this one day about this new idea, this new thing that was going to happen. And I can remember I was sitting in class and they were describing it at great detail. And I didn't really understand what it was. And to me, it sounded like the dumbest idea that we could possibly have. And it was this new fangled invention called email. And I thought, why would you ever want to type a message and send it to somebody? Because that was the generation I grew up in. I mean, none of you have ever made a long-distance phone call. You probably don't even know what long distance is. Anybody here? I grew up in my house. We had a party line, which means you could pick it up, and there may be people halfway across the town. They're talking on there, and you might get to make a phone call, and you might have privacy, but you probably won't. I remember when cell phones came out. The first cell phones that came out were bigger than my shoe, and sometimes you could actually understand the person talking on them, but most of the time not. And that's where I started. And yeah, I'm an old guy, but that's not the world you grew up in. Honestly, I'm the one that should sit down and you guys should come up here and talk to me about branding because you guys are the ones who figured it out. My generation doesn't know anything about it. You know, some of you here who know me today probably think I'm dressed funny because normally in church I don't dress this way. I had a funeral this morning that I was at for a lady, and obviously there's an image I wanted to portray. So my normal attire of t-shirts and jeans probably wasn't going to fit in there, so I had to wear this dumb outfit. So that's why I'm dressed this way. This is not normally what I do. But it's all about branding. It's the image you put forth, and you want to think about where you're going. You want to think about the image you're putting out there because that's important. And you guys think about that more than any other generation probably ever has. And you guys have a lot of different ways to do it. You can wear clothes. You know, clothes put forth an image. Who you talk to, who you associate with, what you join, coming to FCA. I mean, all of those things are a part of the brand that you guys are building to put forward to your friends. You guys are thinking about things like getting jobs, going to college. All of that is about branding, and you're going to have to fill out applications, whether you're going to school or you're going to work, whichever way. You're going to have to fill out applications where you're going to have to say, well, here's my brand, here's what I'm about. You know, this is what I enjoy doing, and then this is what I'm good at, and there's like one thing I'm bad at, and we're not going to talk about that, whatever that is. You know, that's where that stuff comes from. And people my age and as old as I am, we're still struggling with that. You know, I have one social media account. I know you were talking about Instagram. I have an Instagram account too, I think. And occasionally I'll put stuff up there, I think. And sometimes nobody comments on it, and I realize it's not actually posted. Look, I'm still figuring all that out. I had a Twitter account for almost a month. And I got tired of people finding out that I was a pastor and calling me names that I had to go look up what it was. And I'll tell you, some of that stuff I didn't know there were words for. Because people on Twitter, anybody have a Twitter account? Twitter thing you guys do? Man, that is like a cesspool. And they find out you're a minister on there, and the trolls come after you. It's all about branding. I had no idea what I was doing. And I would say, hey, isn't Jesus great? And people would tell me I was going to burn in hell and all this stuff. It's all about branding. And so you guys have figured that out. And what I want to encourage you with today is not only with your hypersensitivity and your complete understanding of branding, again, better than the Generation X is ever going to be able to get it, is you have great responsibility in that. Because the image you put forth is entirely in your hands. What you put on social media, entirely in your hands. You know, what you wear, I mean, you guys can, I mean, there's a number of you here with jerseys on from teams nowhere in Ohio, all over the place. All about branding. It's about what you're putting forward. And I want you to be very careful with that because we live in a world that will punish you based on branding. You can get banned. You can get trolled. You can get all these different things, like my 30-day extravaganza into Twitter. I decided not interested in that because I was branded, and by being branded, now everybody was ready to just flame me all the time, and I got tired of it. So the idea is since you guys are so good at that, your generation is also responsible for what happens with it. You're responsible not only for your own brand, but you're also responsible for other people and what happens to their brand. So you guys all know, I'm sure there are still bullies in school. There were bullies in school when I was in school, and back then they used to push you down and stuff. Now bullies post about you on social media. It's a whole different ballgame. But again, you guys get the power. You guys have the responsibility to go forward and make sure that stuff is not happening and is not allowed to hurt other people. And since you guys understand it and it's the world that you live in, you have a lot of potential to do a lot of harm, and you have a lot of potential to do a lot of good. The other thing you have to remember about your branding, whatever you're putting out there online is there forever. I know everybody and their brother tells you that. But the idea is eventually those jobs you're applying for and those schools you're applying to, they're going to go check that stuff because they're going to want to know about the brand that they're bringing into their corporation or the brand that they're bringing into their school. And if you put out a brand on social media that they're like, I don't know, that could conceivably harm your chances. The other hand, if you have a brand out there that's good, that's positive, you're not posting things that y'all know you shouldn't be posting and doing that stuff, that's good. But I can tell you one thing that people are looking at is the reason that you guys come to FCA. That C in the middle makes a difference. And people are going to want to know, is that a part of your brand? Now, obviously, it's a part of mine because I'm like a professional Christian as a pastor. But that C is going to matter. So as a part of your brand, is that a part of what you're doing? Are you representing that well with this great power that you guys have has been given to you based on how the world is today? Are you taking that C and making something with it? Does Christianity, does Jesus matter any at all in the brand you're putting forth? And it can't be some of the time. It can't be occasionally. It can't be a meme here and a quote there. It's got to be across the board. Now, I don't mean that every single thing you ever post anywhere has got to be like, well, here's the scripture passage for the, it doesn't have to be that. But if you're, at one hand, using foul language or tearing somebody down or saying something negative, and then your next post isn't Jesus great? People are going to be like, I'm not sure, the little bit of difference going on here. And it's very important that brand is put out there because people will assign it to you based on what it is. You may, in your mind, have an idea what you want that brand to be, and you may think you're working really hard to put that out there, but at the end of the day, your brand is actually going to be applied to you. So you all have decided what you want it to be. I know you have, because even back in my day when, social media was a poster on your wall, we had an idea what kind of brand we wanted to put forward. I knew what kind of brand I wanted to put out there. I was a football player. I was on the track team. I was a weightlifter. I played on the offensive line on the football team. That's what I did. I was in the band. I was in the drama club. I was in all these different things, and I wanted that to be my brand. However, I also had great potential to ruin that brand if I went out there and did things that were negative, because everybody in my school, and again, I went to a school, my class that I graduated with had less people in it than are in this room right now. So I graduated from a very, very small high school. So it was a little different. Everybody knew everything about everybody, and everybody knew everybody's parents and all that stuff, which is probably a little different experience than you guys are having. But as a part of that, because it was a small town, everybody knew everything. Everybody also knew the church I went to. And they knew that was a part of what I was. And let me tell you, as difficult as I find it today when people say mean things about me because of this REV in front of my name, as hard as that is to deal with, when I was your age and somebody would say, well, you go to church, what is going on here? And why this? That was harder to deal with then. But I had to decide, what did I want the brand of Tim Benjamin to be? Jock? Musician? Not that there was ever any risk of that one. Christian? Friend? What did I want it to be? And in those days where brand was like, the 12 people around you, your brand today literally is global. You put something on social media, it's out there for all the world to see. And that brand becomes very, very vital. And once you allow that brand to go south, once you allow enough people to question that brand, once you give enough evidence that the brand you're claiming is not the brand you're living, that becomes a problem. And that when those don't match up, people doubt everything about you. And we see that on social media all the time. And it doesn't even have to be any kind of a legitimate question or a legitimate claim. It could just be a perceived wrong or a perceived slight or a perceived whatever. You know what I mean? It doesn't actually have to be there. Somebody just has to think it's there. And your entire brand is called into question. That's why what you live and what you do and the brand that you put out, they're going to match one way or another. Just make sure you're thinking about that before you make those decisions. So, in this world in which we live, and again, think about all the branding that you see. I mean, you guys are saturated in it. Again, so much more than me. Between the YouTube ads and the ads you see on social media and the stuff that comes along on iTunes and all this stuff that you guys are doing, those brands that you see, those corporations pay more money than this school cost a day to keep those brands in front of you. To be able to make sure that those positive messages are out there. That's why if anybody that works for those corporations has any question about them, they're almost immediately fired because they can't afford the black mark on the brand. And because they know how important that is, especially today. So that's the warning I want to give to all of you guys, is guard your brand and guard it closely. Because you only get one. And once you ruin it, you can never get it back, but the process of getting it back is really hard. So if your brand, doesn't include your faith, if your brand doesn't include your friends, if your brand doesn't identify your family and all this kind of stuff, you're putting forth an image, not a brand. And as soon as people see that the two don't match up, your brand is ruined. And again, once those things are ruined, they're tough to put back. And in this day and age where a statement or a sentence or a YouTube post or a social media update lasts literally forever, one bad moment, one bad day, one emotional thing that I shouldn't have sent out there, one picture I shouldn't have taken, never goes away. And your brand will forever be overshadowed by that forever. And those things can come back and haunt you, as many people have found out. So as you guys are going about your day and this great responsibility and these great opportunities that you have been given, I pray for you often. I cannot begin to tell you how glad I am I grew up when I did, because you guys got it a lot more rough than I do as far as those things lasting forever. I can tell you, if there was social media when I was your age, I probably wouldn't be able to keep this job. I can tell you that right now. So those things last forever. And it's a blessing and it's a curse. And I want you to be real careful with it. Make sure the brand you put out is the brand that you want and that you live it consistently. Because if you don't, the brand's not worth a whole lot. Are you coming up here to cut me off?
No.
All right.
No, you keep going.
All right. So branding, it's important. I think about the people who work for me at my church. I am always concerned about the brand they're putting out out because the church is represented by that. The brand I put out there is very important, which is why I put on these outfits to go to do funerals and to be a part of that, because the brand is important. And again, you guys understand that a lot better than this Gen Xer. And once those brands get away from you, it's tough to get them back. So, well, in this world in which we live, you want me to close in prayer? Are we to that point?
I'm going to sneak in for just a few things, and then I'll let you do
Go ahead.
When you first said branding, I'm thinking...
Yeah, with the fire.
Oh, man, I'm talking about bringing in the cattle, and we're going to brand the cattle. Yeah,